Hi, I'm Regular Zach, and this is my limited set review for the Edge of Eternities Magic the Gathering set. Today we are talking all about the blue cards. So again, we are only talking about these cards in the context of draft and sealed. So just the limited format, not really talking about constructed formats like standard or commander. I will be taking every single card and putting it on an A to F grading scale. A's are bombs, they're awesome. These are the cards you like the most and the ones you show off to your friends. B's are cards that actively pull you into these colors or into these archetypes. C's are the majority of your deck. These are a lot of cards that they're like bread and butter, they're good stuff, but usually not super exciting. D's are cards you do not want to play, but sometimes you have to. They can squeeze their way into your deck because I guess we have to play this card because I guess nothing else is out there, but you're not really happy about it. And then F's are cards that you shouldn't put in your deck under any circumstances. They're horrible cards. They're just really, really garbage. They were not made for draft, or they just don't function at all, or I just hate them. So starting us off, we have the commons. This is Ilvoy Gale Blade, which is a single blue for a 1/1 creature jellyfish warrior at common. It has flash and flying, and you can pay 2, sacrifice this creature to draw a card. All right. I actually kind of like this card. There are some Saboteur-y effects, and I think that in blue-black, I would be interested in something like this. Flashing this in, even as just like a blocker to flash in, gain some life, and sacrifice it to draw a card. Not the worst thing in the world. It also triggers all the sacrifice types of stuff, as well as just being like a little flyer that pings your opponent. I do like this. This is probably like a C-level card, not super like crazy exciting, but it gets its... like, once it becomes irrelevant, because you play it on turn 1, you're super happy poking them in, and then if they can ever block it or stop it, you just sacrifice it to cash it in for a card. Really nice. Next up, we have Cryo Shatter. Holy crap. This is a single blue for an enchantment aura at common. Enchanted creature. Enchanted creature gets -5/-0. That's a lot. And it says enchanted creature, whenever enchanted creature becomes tapped or is dealt damage, destroy it. What the hell is this? This card's amazing. What are we talking about? A single blue mana either negates a creature completely, it can't block anymore because if it's dealt damage, it dies, and it can't attack because if it taps, it dies. So as long as you don't put this on a vigilance creature that has more than 5 power, you're really happy. This is crazy. This card's a solid B. Is this the best one we've ever had? This is so strong. I really like Cryo Shatter a lot. It like definitely evokes the freeze the thing and then you poke them and then they just explode into a bunch of like, I don't know, ice dust or whatever. Sick card. This is like the best blue common of the year. I don't know. This is so good. Next up, we have Mechan Shieldmate. It's 1 and a blue for an artifact creature robot soldier at common. It's a 3/2. It has defender. It says as long as an artifact entered the battlefield this turn, under your control this turn, this creature can attack as though it didn't have defender. Sure, 2 mana for a 3/2, blocks really well, sometimes attacks. The attack clause is not that hard to get. It is just a 3/2. If it was a 3/3, I think we'd be a bit happier, but I'll take what I can get. This is like a C. I would play this card for sure. Yeah, this will definitely go in your decks, especially your artifact ones. Next up, we have Cryoggen Relic, which is 1 and a blue for an artifact at common. When this artifact enters or leaves the battlefield, you draw a card. And you can pay 1 and a blue to sacrifice this artifact, put a stun counter on up to 1 target tapped creature. So you can only stun tapped creatures, which is kind of funny. But this enters, you draw a card. When you sacrifice it, you draw another card. If you sacrifice it for any other reason, you draw a card. Yeah, this is like a C+ to a B-. C+ in most decks, you would be totally fine playing this card if you just need some draw spells. And it might trigger some of your artifact things. If you're very heavy in artifact stuff, this card's awesome and you really want it to your deck, that's when it bumps into like a B range. But I think officially I'll give it like a C+. Pretty happy with like this relic. If you don't like, the second part of it is nice because you get to sacrifice it to something, but if you can sacrifice it for any other reason, that's totally fine too. Because the stunning a tapped creature is not super exciting. You're just excited that you got to sacrifice this so you could draw a card. That's really what you're happy about. Sweet card, yeah, like that a lot. Next up, we have Divert Disaster. It's 1 and a blue for an instant at common. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. If they do, you create a lander token. And a lander token is an artifact you can pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, so it just ramps you. Kind of draws you a card, but ramps you. It's really nice. Obviously, we hope we don't get the lander from this. We would like to just counter their spell. But, yeah. This effect I do enjoy, and it doesn't get completely washed away in the late game, but you're not really getting another card. I still think this is like a C+, though. I like these counterspell effects, and yeah, the added lander thing is nice. C+ for Divert Disaster. Next up, we have Ilvoy Operative. It's 1 in a blue. Sorry, this guy's so funny. Look at his face. It's 1 in a blue for a 2/1 creature jellyfish rogue at common. It says whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. All right, so a 2-mana creature that cares about flurrying to put counters on it. I think this is pretty okay. Not phenomenal. It's not like this crazy bomb or anything, but that will happen. I don't know if we want to build our entire deck around it, but the 2-drop slot is a little bit nicer. We've seen this in other sets and stuff at the 3-drop slot. I'd much prefer it a little bit lower. And look at this little guy. I currently have this at like a C-, but I think I'm just going to say this is a C. You're going to trigger this and you'll be happy. Especially in blue, you're playing a lot of spells. The blue-white deck cares about playing multiple spells, and that'll just happen. So it is C. It's... Oh, you know what? I'm talking myself back into it. In some of the other decks, it won't be fantastic. So really just a C- for this card. But I'm happy that it's a 2-drop instead of a 3-drop. Next up, we have Ilvoy Light Jammer, which is 1 in a blue for an artifact equipment at common. It has flash. It says when this enchantment... What the heck? When this equipment enters, attach it to target creature you control. Target creature gains, or that creature gains hexproof until end of turn. Equipped creature gets +1/+2, and equip cost is 3. You could probably play this in your deck. 2 mana is kind of expensive for these like protection spells. I much prefer the 1 mana ones just because it's way easier to hold up 1 mana than 2. 2 is twice as much as 1. Never forget that. So that could be a little bit difficult. And then moving it around just gives +1/+2. You know what? Honestly, this is probably just like a D. I don't think you are so stoked to play this. It's a D+. You can, but I'm not like hoping to put this in my deck for any reason. Next up, we have Mental Modulation, which is 1 in a blue for an instant at common. It says this spell costs 1 less to cast during your turn, so it's a 1-mana spell. It says tap target artifact or creature and draw a card. Okay. The cantrip part of this is nice, and a single blue for it so you can double spell is kind of cool, but I'm assuming that you're not aggressive enough that you care about tapping creatures during your turn. You probably want to play this on your opponent's turn so you tap down their attacker and then you get to draw a card. So, seems like a C-. It could be worse than that, but in the decks where you want to play lots of spells and keep double spelling, this will be helpful. But yeah, I don't know. I'm C- for this card. I could see it sneaking into a deck, but I don't think we're going to have to prioritize this at all. Next up is Nanoform Sentinel, which is 2 in a blue for a 3/2 artifact creature robot at common. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, untap another target permanent. This ability triggers only once each turn. So this is kind of interesting because you can either attack with it and another creature and then untap one of them, or the other one, sorry. Or if you're stationing stuff for your spacecrafts, you get to tap 2 creatures and then untap the other one, which is kind of cool because it will mitigate all the issues with station, which is you don't get the block anymore, which is the biggest problem, I think. So I do like that part of it, but ultimately, I don't know. It seems kind of like a C-level card. There's probably some other interesting utilities with it as well. But, yeah, it seems like a C. It's an artifact, so that is nice. Next up, we have Sinister Cryologist, which is 2 in a blue for a 2/3 creature jellyfish wizard at common. When this creature enters, target creature an opponent controls gets -3/-0 until end of turn, and you can warp it for a single blue. So a single blue, target creature gets -3/-0, and then you get to attack. And then you get to also play this as a 2/3, and then attack again. It seems kind of annoying in like some sort of tempo-y deck, but the again, the -3, -0 ability works so much better at instant speed because they already blocked. And so they think there's a trade, but in fact there's no trade. So this gives them more of an option to figure out what they would like to do with it. So I'm probably just going to give this like a C-, just because I just don't think... I don't like that we don't get to... Like... If we got to do this at instant speed, then the effect actually works the way we want. Anytime we give our opponent the option to block or not block with all the information that we have, it makes cards so much weaker. I do like Warp for 1, though. That is nice. But yeah, not obsessed with this. Next up, we have the Cloud Sculpt Technician. It's 2 and a blue for a 1/4 creature jellyfish artificer at common. It has flying. As long as you control an artifact, this creature gets +1/+0. Cool. It seems like a C. It reminds me of Galacat from the Final Fantasy set, except for that one had Vigilance and attacked for more. So this, if you have an artifact, it's just a 2/4 and you have to tap it to attack. So maybe it's really just like a C-. Actually, I don't think this card's very good. The Vigilance nature and the 3-power nature of Galacat made it worth playing, and that wasn't even that fantastic. Is this even worse than that? It could even be worse. I don't know. Yeah, maybe this is literally... I'm gonna stick with a C-, but it could just be a D. I don't really like these ones that like just bump it up by the teeniest little bit for having something. So kind of a bummer with this card. Next up, we have SelfCraft Mechan. It's a 3 and a blue for a 3/4 artifact creature robot artificer at common. It says when this creature enters, you may sacrifice an artifact. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and draw a card. Draw a card, you say? Absolutely. If you get to play this card, sacrifice that orb from earlier, and then draw 2 cards and put a counter on something, this is a 4-mana 4/5 that draws you a card and whatever other thing if you have the orb. I don't know. This is one of those reasons why you want that what is that? The relic. That's what it's called. Cryoggen Relic. This card seems sweet with that. I don't know. This looks like a C+ because you do get the card. And getting cards is great and really important. And I like this card. Nice. Next up, we have Lost in Space. It's 3 and a blue for an instant. At common, target artifact or creature's owner puts it on their choice of the top or bottom of their library. They surveil, or you surveil 1 afterwards. Cool. This is definitely a playable card. Probably still like C level. 4 mana is a lot to do your removal spells with that don't fully get rid of it. But it is super helpful, and this is definitely a playable card. So yeah, the Surveil tacked on is also nice as well. Next up, we have Starbreach Whale. It's 4 and a blue for a 3/5 creature whale at common. It has flying. And it says when this creature enters, Surveil 2, and you can warp for 1 and a blue. Okay, I do like this card because having your 5 mana like flying creature that's really chonky have utility earlier in the game, especially Surveil 2. If you have a hand where you're like, oh, I only have 2 lands, but at least I have a Starbreach Whale, you can on turn 2 play this Surveil, try to find your lands, and then play it later, and it helps you find spells. This is really cool design-wise. This is like a C+. I think you're happy to play this card, and multiples are totally fine. So Starbreach Whale, definitely a card I'm looking for. This is the power of Warp. Is cards like this, where you get to play a spell that you want to play on your turn at sorcery speed is totally fine, and finding your land drops is perfect. So this is exactly what I'm looking for in my Warp cards. Really happy with this. Next up, we have Mechanzoa. Mechanzoa? I don't know. It looks like a sweet octopus robot thing. I guess it's a jellyfish, not an octopus, even though it kind of looks more like an octopus, but whatever. Anyway, it's 4 blue for a 5/5 artifact creature robot jellyfish at common. It says when this creature enters, tap target artifact or creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it, and it has warp for 2 and a blue. So you can warp it out, tap and stun something, and then play the big one later. Also pretty sweet. This is closer to just like a C-level card, though. I think you will play this, but I'd rather have the Surveil stuff going on. This one seems nice, but just the warp thing early feels better in a deck that wants to be a little bit more like aggressive or attacking, where this card obviously taps things down. A lot of times on blue, we aren't doing a lot of that stuff. So maybe if in the blue-white deck, we'll be happy doing that. Or the blue-red deck because you care about artifacts entering. So this is another artifact that does that. But I think I'd like the whale a little bit more for warping purposes. Yeah. Anyway, this is a C level card. Next up, we have the uncommons with Annul. It's a single blue for an instant, uncommon. Counter target artifact or enchantment spell. D for Annul. This looks like a sideboard card for standard if there's any issues with artifacts or enchantments. We don't really want to be putting this in our deck because it's so situational that you have to, like, it's very nice that it only costs blue. That's great. But the situation of having to hold it up specifically for when they play this type of spell can be brutal because if you don't play on curve just so you can hold up Annul and then they don't play a card that you can counter, it just sucks. So I don't think you should put this in your deck. Next up is Atomic Microizer. It's a single blue for an artifact equipment at uncommon. Equipped creature gets +1/+0, and whenever a equipped creature attacks, choose up to one target creature. That creature can't be blocked this turn and has base power and toughness 1/1 until end of turn, and it costs 2 to equip. This is kind of interesting. So you equip this to one of your creatures. You can either make your creature smaller so it can get in if there's some sort of saboteur ability that you care about. You can attack in with this creature and then make another one of your creatures a 1/1 to get through. Or you can attack with your creature and turn their creature into a 1/1, right? So that's pretty interesting. If they have something huge and you're like, actually, I'm going to shrink you and I'm attacking with this guy, you can either block and lose your big creature that's now a 1/1, or I get through. Or it makes double blocks kind of weird because it screws it up. This is a very interesting card. I don't know if it's great, but I would say this is like a C-, where like oftentimes I'm not interested in artifacts that don't auto-equip, but this is a cool enough ability and cheap enough to play and equip that I think we could find some utility with it. So C- with this card. I think you could play this card. Next up, we have Steel Swarm Operator, which is 1 in a blue for a 1/1 artifact creature robot soldier at uncommon. It has flying. And it's a mana dork. You can tap it for blue to cast artifact spells, or tap it for blue for artifact abilities. Cool. Sure. 2 mana 1/1, and then you get to ramp for artifact things. Any of the artifact spells or artifact decks care about this, and there's a lot of them. There's also just lots of artifacts running around, so having mana dorks in like 3 different colors is pretty cool. This one's the most situational, but still nice. It's like a C-level card. I'd be happy to play this in my artifact decks. Probably not in anything else. Next up, we have Mechan Navigator. It's 1 in blue for a 2/1 artifact creature robot pilot at uncommon. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. Hoo-wee! That's nice. I do like that ability. Sure, so you can either be attacking with this card and loot. Looting is fantastic. We're always excited to loot. Or, instead of attacking, you could just station your things. This is one of the best station cards because I think the utility of tapping it to get those effects is really nice. Obviously, you don't have to do it all the time, but just being like, yeah, my creature, it's basically a looter, but I need a station card out. Would I be happier if this was just straight up a looter? Yes. I would just be stoked on that. Though, to be fair, you can play this and station it immediately, so that is something. But if this just had the ability tap, draw a card, then discard a card, it's basically the one that we have. We don't have another looter besides this. So, but you need to have a station in your deck, a spacecraft. Maybe I'm not as excited about it because I don't want to spacecraft stuff. But I'm going to keep it as it is. I have a C+ on this card. Either aggressively, you get to loot to get what you want, or station stuff. So, yeah, pretty nice. Next up, we have Desculpting Blast. It's 1 in a blue for an instant and uncommon. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If it was attacking, create a 1/1 colorless drone artifact creature token with flying, and this token can block only creatures with flying. Sick. So you get to make, it's that little guy. That's your drone. So your opponent's attacking you, you bounce their creature, and then you make a 1/1 that then it gets to attack them on your turn. That's awesome. This card's good. This is like a B- level thing. Like, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to be bouncing the card that's attacking, and you get a creature out of the deal, and as a flyer, hell yeah. All the stuff we want. B-. Desculpting Blast. Sick. Next up, we have Uthos Scientist. Uthos Scientist. Wow, that's a lot of letters that I don't know if I'm supposed to pronounce them or not, but let's keep going. Anyway, it's 2 and a blue for a 2/4 creature jellyfish scientist at uncommon. It says the second spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. Cool. I don't always like these ones. They will be helpful in certain situations. And it is a 2/4, so it blocks kind of all right. But we've had this version of a spell in that were flyers that we still didn't like very much. So I think this is probably like a C- maybe. Like, how excited are we to actually get that rolling? Not super excited. Yeah, that's okay. Next up, we have Codecracker Hound, which is 2 and a blue for a 2/1 creature dog at uncommon. It says when this creature enters, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one into your hand and the other into your graveyard, and then warp for 2 and a blue. Yeah! This is good. Hell yeah, buddy. Codecracker Hound. 3 mana, draw a card. 3 mana, again, draw another card, and it's a 2/1. I think this is probably just a B. I think we're just stoked to play this card. You either just warp it to, like, if you need more cards, you warp it. If you need a body, you just play it, and it's just great. Yeah. Codecracker seems great. This, if I see this card, I'm going to be like, whoa, is blue open? This card seems awesome. Draws you 2 cards. That's 6 mana, but still. Great card. Really like Codecracker Hound. Next up, we have Ilvoy Infiltrator, which is 2 and a blue for a 1/3 creature jellyfish rogue at uncommon. It says this creature can't be blocked if you've cast 2 or more spells this turn, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, ho! Draw a card. Nice. Damn, dude, this is another like B level card. It could be a B-, but I'm feeling generous. Let's just give this a B. You're double spelling, you're attacking, you're drawing more cards to continue to double spell, to keep attacking, to draw more cards, to keep doing that. And then you're just winning and winning and winning. Like, your opponent has to kill this guy. Sick. Very cool card. Love those cards. All right, next up we have Unravel. It's 1 blue for an instant at uncommon. Counter target spell. If the amount of mana spent to cast that spell was less than its mana value, you draw a card. So this basically says, hey, counter whatever you want, but if you counter a warped spell, you get to draw a card, which is pretty nice. I'd snap this off anytime I can draw a card off of it. That's sick. Really good. I mean, cancel, having blue in the cost is rough, but if you get that card, fantastic. This is like a C+. It's a C+ level card, and if you get to draw a card off of it, it goes to the B range. So I would be doing everything I could, hoping that my opponent, every time I hold this up, I'm like, please warp something. Please warp something. That would be my favorite thing to do. Anyway, Unravel, C+. Sorry, C+ for that card. Next up is Scour for Scrap. It's 3 and a blue for an instant at uncommon. Choose one or both. Search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And it says, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is 4 mana instant speed, tutor up an artifact, and return an artifact. And so you drew 2 artifact cards in your hand, instant speed. I don't know how much we love this thing. It is very situational. I think, obviously, you need a bunch of artifacts in your deck for this to work. Even in that situation, it's probably still like a C- or like a C. In every other situation, it's a D. I think most of the time we're not happy to play this card, and then every once in a while you can put it in your deck. But I think to be on the safe side, this is probably just a D. Like, there are lots of artifacts and stuff, but if you can't... So the thing is, like, if you're just tutoring with this, this is 4 mana, get an artifact into your hand, death. Like, that's horrible. If this is 4 mana, draw 2 cards, it has to be draw 2 cards. If you can't get an artifact back from your graveyard that you actually care about, this is horrible, right? The best thing would be like returning your relic to your hand and go getting something that will sacrifice the relic or something else, something big from your deck. That would be the best case scenario. But if you can't do both, this card's horrible. So I'm just going to base level it to D, and then maybe it gets better. Next up, we have Uthos Scansship, which is 3 and a blue for a 4/4. Well, 3 and a blue for a spacecraft. It's not a 4/4 yet. When it enters, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. And if you tap 8 power worth of creatures to station this thing on your turn as a sorcery, it becomes a 4/4 with flying. Yikes. Ugh, I really don't like these things. It does draw you cards, so I think it's a C- if you don't have any draw spells. And then every once in a while it becomes a 4/4, but man, these spacecrafts are so rough. I don't like any of them. But this one draws cards, so it's a C-. I think you can still play it. Next up, we have Tractor Beam. What a weird card this is. It's 2 blue for an enchantment aura at uncommon. It says enchant creature or spacecraft. When this aura enters, tap enchanted permanent. You control enchanted permanent. Enchanted permanent doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. Okay, so instead of thinking of this as a steal card, you're stealing their card, but in actuality, this is just you tapping down their creature. So this is similar to like the 3 mana, target creature is tapped and doesn't untap. But you also have the added text of you pay an extra blue so that they can't sacrifice it to anything because it's yours now. And all of the abilities that it has are yours as well. So there is an added bonus to that. I think that does go a long way, but there have to be specific cards that you want to take with this to get value out of, or you just take out the biggest thing and then it just doesn't do anything for you. So it's kind of a weird card. I think it's definitely playable, but it's very situational, and the double blue makes it a little rough. I think we're probably just going to give this a C because it is removal in blue. It's really interesting removal in blue, but there's a lot of weird stuff that goes along with this. And if they can bounce it or anything, they get it back, obviously. So I think 4 mana for this ability, double blue. Yeah. Pretty cool, though. I'm excited to see how this works because oftentimes you're not happy that you tapped down their thing and then they just get to sacrifice it to something. So this way they can't. You could sacrifice it to something, so I guess. But then you just kind of 2-for-1 yourself. Anyway, whatever. This is C. I could see you playing this, but I don't think we're super happy about it. Next up, we have Gigastorm Titan, which is 4 and a blue for a 4/4 creature elemental at uncommon. It says this spell casts 3 less to cast if you've cast another spell this turn. So turn 5, you play something for 2. Then you get to play, or even 3. Turn 5, you play a 3-drop, and then this comes down for 2 mana. Boom. That's pretty sick. I think this thing squeezes into a lot of stuff, and like having a bunch of these and just playing a bunch of 4/4s could actually be a totally fine game plan. I'm gonna give this like a C+. Like in the white blue deck and lots of other ones. It's not an artifact, so that kind of ruins things, but most decks want to play like double spell, and this helps you double spell. And 2 mana for a 4/4 is really nice. So yeah, C+ for this card. Gigastorm Titan, pretty cool. Next up, we have Mechan Assembler. It's 4 and a blue for a 4/4 artifact creature, Robot Artificer at uncommon. It says whenever another artifact you control enters, create a 2/2 colorless Robot Artifact creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Yeah, buddy. We're happy for this, right? Like, you play an artifact, you make a robot. You play another artifact, you make another robot. And you just do that every single turn. You compound over time. This does seem kind of scary. Obviously, you have to have a lot of artifacts in your deck, but I don't think that's going to be too hard. It also says whenever another artifact you control, so it doesn't care about non-token artifacts, which is important. That is why it says it only triggers once each turn, because of course you're making an artifact with it. But if you make lander tokens, if you make other robots from other cards, if you make the little 1/1 drones from other cards, you get to make a 2/2. And if like this card works really well with the bounce spell, because you bounce something, then you make the drone, then you make a 2/2. Like that seems pretty brutal. I don't know. I like this a lot. This is like a B minus level card. Definitely need a lot of artifacts, but the fact that there's tokens all over the place is also super helpful. I will be unhappy if my opponent plays this. Yeah, I will be. B-. Next up, we have Cerebral Download, which is 4 and a blue for an instant at uncommon. Surveil X, where X is the number of artifacts you control, then draw 3 cards. Okay. Instant speed, draw 3 cards for 5 mana. Not the worst. And then getting the extra Surveil, that's pretty nice too. I think we're probably just saying that this is like a C+. I don't think this goes into B. If you have like a ton of artifacts, like how many Surveils do you need before this is amazing? Like 2, 3? I don't know. That seems crazy. That seems nice. Okay, so it's probably a B in artifact-specific decks. But the fact that this is instant speed, I think a lot of other blue decks will be happy to play it as well. And it's a C+ for sure. Yeah. Creepy jellyfish tentacle mouth hand thing. Ugh. Anyway, up next we have Specimen Freighter. It's 5 and a blue for a artifact spacecraft. It says when the spacecraft enters, return up to 2 target non-spacecraft creatures to their owner's hands. And you can station it for 9 power. It becomes a 4/7 with flying. And it says whenever the spacecraft attacks, defending player mills 4 cards. Okay. That whole extra text is just extra. But this is, imagine that this is just a 6 mana spell that bounces 2 things. And sometimes it turns into a creature. I think that's pretty good. I think we're pretty happy with that spell. It's also an artifact which matters more because then you have a bunch of artifact synergies with it. The reason it says non-spacecraft is less so about bouncing your opponent's spacecraft and more so if you have 2 of these, you can't loop them. So you just go back and forth. Bounce one of your things, bounce my spacecraft, play this, bounce my other spacecraft, bounce that, and go back and forth. Or even just playing this card and bouncing itself. Yeah, that's why it says non-spacecraft. Anyway, but this seems like a C+ level card. If you actually get to turn it into a creature, it does turn into a B, I think. But this is a whopping... This is one of those scary cards that you're like, all right, I'm going to win next turn. Then they top deck this, slam it down. You're like, all right, well, now I'm way behind. And this does give you the time to cast it, bounce 2 of their things, and station it. Because that turn, they're probably not going to attack you back to win the game. So you do get to put at least some of the charge counters on it. So maybe the following turn, you can turn it into an actual creature. And then they're just like, oh, geez, how do I attack in this 4/7? It's so annoying. Yeah, pretty good. C+, trending to B-, actually. This could be one of my favorite spacecrafts in the whole, like all the common, uncommon spacecrafts. This could be my favorite, probably. Next up, we have Mouth of the Storm. It's 6 and a blue for a 6/6 creature elemental uncommon with flying. It has Ward 2. And it says when this creature enters, creatures your opponents control get -3, -0 until your next turn. So not even just the turn we play it, but there's a whole turn cycle where they don't attack you. That's pretty nice. 7 mana is kind of hard, but this does stabilize you very well. Like, this feels like a B, where it does the same thing where it's like, well, I'm going to slam this card. You're not going to be able to kill me next turn. And then I have a 6/6 flyer that's a problem. So that all wraps up into, damn, I really don't want to see this card in the opposite, like, against me. This is rough. The only hard thing is that it costs 7 mana. But you're pretty stoked to play this in your blue-green decks where you're ramping a bunch or anything that can get to 7 mana. Hopefully this is the format that will allow you to do that, but I think this card's pretty good and definitely a great payoff for 7 mana. Next up, we have Synthesizer Lab Ship. It's a single blue for an artifact spacecraft that enters and does nothing. But it just costs 1 mana, so you can play it on turn 1. It does have 2 different station costs. So the first one, the threshold is 2, so that's pretty easy. At the beginning of combat on your turn, up to 1 other target artifact you control becomes an artifact creature with base power and toughness 2/2 and gains flying until end of turn. So turn 1 you play this, turn 2 you play anything with 2 power. You get to suit it up and then, I mean, I guess you can turn nothing into an artifact because this is probably the only artifact you have. But it is kind of nice. It also, once it's suited up, you can turn any of your other artifacts into creatures where you're probably wanting to attack because they do have flying. But you could just continue to just station this. And so then it gets better and better and better. So there is that ability as well. So that is nice. And once you get to 9 or more charge counters, it's a 4/4 with flying and vigilance. And you just continue to make your other artifact creatures or artifacts in general 2/2s, which Would also be kind of interesting if you're playing the Relic, you get to turn the Relic into a creature that then says if it dies, you get to draw a card, and that's a really nice creature. And plus they have flying. So, I don't know. This is also a pretty good station thing. I like it when you have two different modes. That can be kind of helpful, and especially if the first one's really easy to get to and the cost is really low. So, there is a lot of stuff that you have to do to work around this card. You need an artifact deck, and you need to be wanting to do these kinds of things. But you can swarm your opponent a little bit-ish. I don't know. It's a C+. I think it's better than some of the other spacecrafts we have out there, and seems more possible. It like kind of makes creatures, right? So I do like that. Next up, we have Emissary Escort, which is 1 and a blue for a 0/4 artifact creature robot soldier at rare. It says this creature gets +X/+0, where X is the greatest mana value among other artifacts you control. Shoot. Other? So it's just an 0/4 on its own. It will never be a 2/4 by itself. The other really kills me on this one. But it makes sense because the toughness is so high. This can get pretty strong though, and there's also that there's that artifact that's it's a 9 mana 9/9, but you can warp it for 9. Warp it for 3. So you warp it out, and then this is just a 9/4 on turn 3. Like that's pretty scary. Obviously that goes away later, but this seems kind of cool. It also works well with your stations if you're trying to station things up. So maybe blue is a great station color. Like maybe blue-black is a great station color. That's kind of interesting because you would think that it's a different color combination. Anyway, I do like this card though. I think it's probably like a C+. Not crazy phenomenal, and you need other artifacts for this to do anything, and they have to be artifacts that have mana values because tokens don't give this any power at all. But definitely a card I'd like to have in my artifact deck, but it's not going to be like my, oh, sick, I got this card, it's fantastic, you know. Next up, we have Consult the Star Charts, which is 1 and a blue for an instant at rare. It has Kicker for 1 and a blue as well, so it's either 2 or 4 mana. It says, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. Put one of those cards into your hand. If the spell was kicked, put 2 of those cards into your hand instead. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay, this is a pretty good draw spell. This is really nice. The idea is like, 2 mana, you get to look at 2 cards and put 1 into your hand, or 4 mana, you look at 4 cards and put 1 into your, or 2 into your hand. But obviously you can go up from there. Yeah, C+ for this. I don't think it's much better than that, but I do like this card. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, instant speed draw, always good too. C+ for Consult the Star Charts. Next up, we have Moonlit Meditation, which is 2 and a blue for an enchantment aura at rare. Enchant an artifact or creature you control, and then the first time you would create 1 or more tokens each turn, you may instead create that many tokens that are copies of enchanted permanent. Instead, it does have to enchant an permanent you control, so don't forget that part. You have to put cards in your deck that are good, which I think this card is not. This is probably a D. Like, this card is not very good unless you have 5 ways to make tokens. How many? Do you need 5 or more? You need a lot. Because this card can easily just be played and do nothing. Like, a lot of blue decks will just not care about this card at all. You need so many. So you need a this would be good with a token creator. So if you have one of those creatures that cares about making more tokens, like the 5 mana one that makes the 2/2 robots, like you put this on that thing, and then you make a copy of that thing, and so each time you make copies at your end step, you make more and more copies, and it gets huge and huge and huge. So that's a nice little combo. But if you can't do it with that card, it's really bad. So you'd like it has all the other problems with being an aura where you're trying to cast out your thing and then it gets blown up or bounced whenever something good's going to happen or whatever. So I think you probably don't want to play this card. Every one in like 100 decks, you might have a great deck for it and you could put it together. But I just think it'll be better in other formats. So might be excited for this card in Commander, but I don't think it's going to be good in Limited. Next up, we have Starfield Vocalist, talking about Commander cards. It's 3 and a blue for a 3/4 creature human bard at rare. It says, if a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And then warp for 1 and a blue. This is the type of effect that a lot of people like for Commander deck kind of things. The one thing I do really like is the warp on this really makes it so that you can play it in conjunction with something else. You don't have to spend a whole turn playing this card, crossing your fingers that next turn it's going to still be around, and then play your big thing that has the huge effect. This is just like 2 mana, play this, play that thing, get the value right away. So with this, I think it is playable, but like a C to like a C minus. It'll probably come up more often. There's more interesting things to do. One of my favorite things is probably just going to be play 2 mana, warp this, and then play your Cryogenic Relic, and then draw 2 cards, and then, like, that's really nice. But it only cares about when things enter, so just remember that. But obviously a lot of cards have ETBs, so... but ultimately, like, you will have to build around it a little bit. I think the average deck is probably not stoked on it, but... yeah, I don't know. Not obsessed, but definitely a playable card. Next up, we have Menon, the Right Hand, which is 3 blue for a 3/4 legendary creature, Jellyfish Advisor at rare. It has flying. It says you may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast artifact spells from the top of your library. And it says artifacts you control have tap, add blue. Spend this mana only to cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand. So this card casts artifacts off the top of your library, which hopefully you have a bunch of artifacts, because that's one of the best modes, is just you have an extra card in your hand every turn, if it's an artifact. Then when you play those artifacts, they tap to play more artifacts off the top of your library. But the other thing that this does is that it turns all your artifacts into mana rocks for your warp spells. So all the cards that you warped, they're in exile, you slam this down, and then if you have a bunch of artifacts, you just get to play one of your warp things immediately. There's a lot of setup that goes into this card. I think there's a lot of power in it as well. I think this is probably a B-level card if you build around it. You do need to be very artifact heavy, but as we've seen, there are a lot of artifacts in blue. But the power of this card is so high, and being able to just have all those cards off the top of your library is great. That effect, you can't underestimate the effect of just being able to play the cards off of the top of your library. So I like Menon a lot. It's not nearly as good as it's going to be in some constructed formats, because you can do more Cheerios type things. But where you just play a bunch of 0 mana artifacts. We don't have that here. But playing a lot of cheap artifacts would be really great, because then you want a lot of cheap artifacts, this guy, and then some big stuff, which is kind of hard to balance in draft. But I do think this card's really strong and good. Probably like a B+, if you can build around it, but doesn't immediately win the game just by playing it, which it does warp the game a little bit, but I think it's not necessarily strictly an A. Next up, we have Starwinder, which is 5 blue for a 7/7 creature Leviathan at rare. It says whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw that many cards, and then it has warp for 2 blue. So you just get to warp this in, attack with a bunch of stuff, draw a bunch of cards, then play it as a 7/7, and then if your opponent never can't block this once, you draw 7 cards. That's crazy. I like this one a lot. I'm going to give this an A. I think that Starwinder is super strong. The warp ability is going to be so annoying, and it does make you want to have some little flyers or different things, so you get to draw a bunch of cards, or even in blue decks with tramplers or anything like that. This seems sweet. Yeah, you're just either trade off with my stuff, or I'm going to draw a bunch of cards, which they'll never want to let you do. So this is a need to kill this card immediately. If you ever give this trample or flying or anything, you'll be so happy. Next up, we have the Mythics. This is Quantum Riddler, which is 3 blue for a 4/6 creature Sphinx at Mythic. It has flying, and it says when this creature enters, draw a card. Boom! Already love it. And it also says, as long as you have 1 or fewer cards in hand, if you would draw 1 or more cards, draw that many cards +1 instead. Sick. End of the game, you need to draw more cards. This thing helps you. Even when you play it, you get to draw 2 cards if you only have 1 or less. It also warps for 1 and a blue. So if it's early in the game and you're like, well, let's just draw a card. Turn 2, I'm going to just draw a card. Let's go. Awesome. This card is an A. Definitely an A. It's a big body in the air. And every turn at the end of the game, you want to be just playing your land, so you just keep drawing in more and more cards. Drawing 2 cards a turn is crazy in Limited, and this card definitely does that. So maybe A+. I think this card's sick. I would like definitely slam this. Let's just give it an A+ because we're being nice. Great card. Next up, we have Weft Walking, which is 4 blue for an enchantment at Mythic. When this enchantment enters, if you cast it, shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, then draw 7 cards. And then it says the first spell each player casts during each of their turns may be cast without paying its mana cost. So we spend 6 mana. We get to shuffle our hand and graveyard into our library and draw 7 cards. And then we already played our first card for the turn, which was Weft Walking, so we don't get to play anything else, most likely. Our opponent goes, and they get to play something for free first. That is pretty brutal. However, we are late enough in the game, if you're playing a 6-mana enchantment, that either your opponent has 1 card in hand, or none, or maybe 2. But most likely, they have enough mana to cast that card anyway. If they get to untap and double spell, you'll be like, what am I doing? Why did I even play this card? But you drew 7 cards, and you're definitely up on this exchange. As long as Weft Walking is still around by your turn, which it's an enchantment, so most likely, you just get to play something. You probably drew something huge. So you just get to slam that into play for free and then play something else. This is an A. This looks like an A for me. It does have that downside of your opponent being able to play something for free, but I do think it won't matter that much because it's late enough they'd be able to play something anyway. So it just means their mana isn't tapped, and I don't think that's going to even affect it all that much at all. There are giant things in this set, so you might have to worry about like a big 8-mana spacecraft or something coming down. But no, I like this a lot. A for the Weft Walking. So that's all the cards for the main set. However, we do have a couple special guest cards. There are 10 of them, and there are 2 blue ones. So we're going to talk about them right now. You will find these in play boosters, so important to talk about them. First one is Paradox Haze. It is a 2 and a blue for an enchantment aura. It says enchant a player. It says at the beginning of enchanted player's first upkeep each turn, that player gets an additional upkeep after this step. Horrible. Absolutely useless. Does not do anything. This is a cool card for your commander deck, but it's not good for anything else. Take it if you want it in your, in your collection, or if you're drafting in person, it looks cool, but don't put it in your deck. Do not put this card in your deck. It is really bad. It does 0 things. It probably will just be, it'll come back around to you anyway. So like, don't even waste a pick on it. It's meh. Next up is Nexus of Fate. This one, much more interesting. 5 blue for an instant. It says take an extra turn after this one. If this card will be put into your graveyard from anywhere, reveal this card and shuffle it into its owner's library instead. Beautiful card. Beautiful ability. 7 mana, take an extra turn, and you get to try to just do that thing where you just take an extra turn for the rest of the game. Like if you're milling yourself out, this just keeps you going and your opponent just basically never gets another turn. Super sweet. I will say that it is expensive, and oftentimes in Limited, your extra turns will not feel as exciting because you won't always have a bunch of stuff to do. So as long as you're ahead on board and you can attack, extra turns will be super helpful. Or if you're stationing, so you get to take an extra turn, like station one of your spacecrafts that's like a mythic one that's cool. Take an extra turn, station it again, then it's huge or whatever. That could be cool. But I definitely would take this card. I would play Nexus of Fate for sure. Probably like, I don't know if this is straight an A, but like a B+ for Nexus of Fate. Cool card. But anyway, folks, those are all my thoughts on the blue cards in the set. Let me know what your thoughts are, if I was really right or really wrong. What do you think? Tell me in the comments below. But until next time, folks, I will see you later. Bye.